Hi everyone, welcome back to Salesforce Velocity course. In this session, we are going to learn about set value actions in Omniscript. Okay, so as the name implies, set value action sets values in the data JSON using merge fields and formulas. Okay, so let me just lay out few things that can be done using the set values, and then we'll go ahead and jump into the example. All right, so so it can do things like for example, rename nodes in the sorry. rename nodes in the input JSON. Okay. And we'll see all of this with some examples. Okay. So don't worry about it. And then you can also add literal values. Okay. In the JSON. And also you can do something such as you can also concatenate. Okay. Values let it be static value or even dynamic value. Okay. So static or dynamic. Okay. And then also you can do something as you can perform calculations. Okay. Perform calculations using formulas. Okay. So let's say if you have to do any mathematical operations as well, you can do that. Okay. And then also it also you can also okay, concatenation we already talked about. But so for example, these things you will be doing, right? For example, concatenating two values, and wherever you are using a dynamic value, then you have to use that merge syntax, right? You remember this thing, right? Percentage. So we have to use that merge. Okay. Whenever you are using the dynamic value. Okay. And then it can also perform for example, complex date calculation. And apart from this, it can also do something such as for example, it can use a function. You can use a function and retrieve an array value. Okay. So these are there are multiple other things as well that can be done using set values. Okay, so let's just go ahead and see some examples so that you'll have a better understanding of okay, what do I mean by all of this. Okay, so I have created an Omniscript, and in that Omniscript I'll just show you that I have two screens. Okay, and I have a data raptor call in between. Okay, here I'm entering the account name, and then when I click on next, this data raptor call is triggered, and it takes this variable this user input value to the data raptor fetches the data from Salesforce, and it gives the result back, which is what I'm displaying onto this screen. Okay, the name, account ID, industry, and description based on the result that I get from the data raptor call. Okay, so now in this one, let me clear the data and show you something before we go ahead and start this. So let's say I am just giving a keyword here. So this is the data that is returned by data raptor, and this is what I am mapping and displaying in the second screen, right? Repopulating, auto-populating in the second screen. And if I see the JSON, these are the four fields that I'm retrieving, right? Name, account ID, account industry, and account description. All right. So now let's say if I want to include few more things in this JSON file, right? Then how would I do that? So let's just go ahead and search for set values. Don't worry about it. I mean, as we move along, you will understand the meaning. Okay. So let me put a set value, sorry, drag and drop a set value over here. Okay. And let's just give it some name as set value example. Okay. And once you have a set value, you have to add element name, and also, so you need to click on this button, add new value. Then you would have to provide element name and value. Okay. Now, everything that I talked about, right? Everything, if you want to perform any of this thing or anything else related to set values, then you have to create a set value component, right? And then inside that component, you have to provide the element name and value. Okay. So let's just start doing some of these. So for example, let me try to display a dynamic value. Okay. Like a normal dynamic value. So what I can do is, and here in the element name, you can give any name that you want. So let's say if I want to display, let me just first show you the concatenation. Okay. So let's say what and all do I have? Account name and account ID, industry, and description. Let's say I want an element to display account name and industry. Okay. So here I would simply say name and industry. Okay. Then in the value, I have to concatenate account name and industry. Okay. So what did we talk about the dynamic values? When I'm using the dynamic values, because I want to merge the name and the industry based on the result that I get from data raptor, right? I don't want to give some static value. So when you want to use a dynamic value, then you have to use that merge syntax, right? Percentage. So here we'll give percentage, and in between that, the first thing that I want is name. So what is the element name, like the unique name for this particular element? It is name, right? So name. So we'll go back to the set value and name. Okay. Now also want to concatenate industry, right? Like with name, I want to concatenate industry and I want to keep a space in between. I mean, if you want, you can, otherwise, I mean, don't do it, but I'm just keeping a space in between. And then again, percentage. The next thing is industry. So we'll go ahead and check out the element name for the industry. It is this, okay? Account industry. We'll go back to the set value and here I'm giving the account industry, okay? So we'll check the results. Let me just do some more examples. Okay. So this was the concatenation, and let's say I just want to display a dynamic value. So I can I can create another node. Let's say name of the account. Okay. And where am I storing account name here, right? This is where it is getting stored. And the element name is this, right? Name. So I'll go back here and here I would only do this. Okay. This name this. Okay. This is how I can simply add extra node and display a dynamic value. Now after this, let's just also try to, let's say I can also put some static string or number. Okay. So let's say some status, okay, like some string value I want to put, and here I can put anything, such as let's say basically any static data, okay, any string data. And here if I want to put some number, then I can give that as well. And also let's just see some basically some conditional formula. Okay, so let's say if I want to create a formula based on, let's say, industry. Okay, so let me first show you. So I will be giving, so once I preview this, right, I will give the account key as out front, right? So that, because I want to apply basically I want to write a formula based on some condition. And for that I'm just going ahead and seeing that what does this account have and what kind of condition I can apply. Okay, so here let's say or you know what, we can apply on the, let's just not get confused, we can directly apply on the industry itself. Okay, so let's say check for industry. Okay, so here I will go ahead and click on this function icon. Okay, this time I did not click here because I need to write some function. Okay, so I'll click here, and for the formula I will check for that if operator. Okay, so this is the if operator. Now it came. Now I need to give the expression, then what if this expression is true, then what the value should be, and if false, then what the value should be. Okay, so that is what we have to give here. So here I wanted to check for industry, right? So you know what? I forgot to check what is the element name for the industry. So let me check that first. So this is the element name for the industry, right? Let's go back here and check for industry. We'll go back to the formula. Let's just, where is if? Here. So I want to check if account industry and then is equals to. Okay, so remember, right, this whatever you'll put here, right, the expression, you are only for the value you are going to surround it with percentages. Okay, so if account industry is equals to, we can put anything, let's say null. Okay, so if it is null, then I want to return false, but if it has a value, then I want to return true. Okay, and then let's just click on okay. So this is one. And apart from this, we can do few more things. So for example, let's say I want to use another string, right? So we have something for account ID, and the lightning record IDs are generally 15 or 18 digits, right? So let's say I want to only maybe take out a substring from this particular account ID field, right? So let's say I want to display the first three digits of the ID. Okay, so let's just give it something as first three of account ID. and I will, and also let's just take the element name, okay, because we would be needing it. So element name, let's go back here. Let's go to the function and we can search for substring. So here we have substring, and here we need to provide the, so from account ID, right? And what should be the starting index? So from 0, right? So I want to start from 0 and I want to, okay. And then, so likewise, there are so many other functions that you can actually use for your formula. Okay. Like there are a lot of date functions as well that you can use, for example, date difference, or if you want to extract the year, just the year from date. So that way, there are a lot of functions that can be used. All right. And then click on OK. So these are the things, right? So now if I preview my Omniscript, then along with the JSON result that I see for this, right, I should also be seeing the result of set value example in the JSON, and that should have all these elements and it should give me the result, right? The result back according to whatever I have provided here. All right. So let's just go and preview this. Let me clear the data. And one more thing, guys, it's like if you see this set value, I have kept inside step 3 itself, right? So what happens when you keep any kind of action inside a step? It will show in the form of a button, right? So that is how it is going to show me. So here, let's just search for an account. So out front, and then, sorry, let's just click on next. Okay, so this gave me one result back, out front media, and then these are the values. But if you check, so here, right, in the JSON, for now, you will only see these things because I have not clicked here, right? Because I have kept the set value action inside this step. So that is why it is coming as a button. But if I click on this, then whatever I have elements I have provided inside this, right, it should start showing me over here. So if I click on this, you can see here, right? Okay, so I think it is counting from 1, right? So I should have given it as starting from 1 and till 3. So it is only giving me the first two, like 0, 0. Okay, so I mean, but it is still giving me the string. The only thing is that the starting and the end index, I did not provide it correctly. But if you provide it correctly, then it will give you the expected result. Okay, so first off account ID, then check for industry. It is true because industry is not blank, right? If industry would have been null, then it would have returned me false, right? Based on whatever I had written, the function logic, impression logic, right? Then in the static number, I had provided 50. In this string, I had provided XYZ. The name of the account is Outfront Media. So I'm just extracting the name of the account, like the dynamic way, right? The name and industry concatenation. So name is Outfront Media, and then there's a space, and then industry, apparel, right? So these are kind of functions that you can achieve, you can perform using set values. All right. Let me give you you one more example where you would be able to use set values. Okay. So let's just say, let me share my whiteboard once. Okay. So let's just say that we have, let me just change the, all right. So, okay. So let's just say that I have a form. Okay. And this is employee onboarding form. Okay. Onboarding form. Okay. And on this employee onboarding form, I have 3 fields. Okay. So let's say I have name. Okay. And then I have email. Okay. And then I have employee ID. Okay. Employee ID. And then I want a button here to be available called as reset. Okay. So when the your any team, right, who does this employee onboarding in your project or in your company, when they use this, right, then let's say if they enter the details for employee 1, right, and once they are done it and once they save it, then they might be they should be able to reset. It's just an example, right? You can think of other different scenarios, but here what I want to say is that whatever you have filled in, right, if you want to click on reset and if you want to blank out the values, then you can make use of set value actions. Okay. So let's just go ahead and check out the same scenario. We are going to, in the Omniscript, we are on step 1, we are going to create 3 text fields. Okay. Name, email, and employee ID, and we are going to make use of set values, set value action to reset the form. Okay, so let's just go ahead and see that, like, how we can achieve that. So let me share this. All right. So for that, first of all, let's just disable this. Okay, this disable this particular. So from here, you can disable the steps in OmniScript. Okay, for using this checkbox. So I don't want all of this. So that is why I'm disabling it. Even the data raptor call, I'm also going to disable this. And here I want to make some changes, right? So in step one, I have this account text field. So let's just change the name. Let's name it to the first field that we wanted was employee name, right? So name, and then in the field label, we'll have, okay, let me just give it as employee name. Okay. And here employee name, and I will include another input, another text value. I think I can just copy this one. Yeah. And then I'm gonna copy one more time. Okay, so this one, employee email. Okay, here I'm just going to give it as email. All right, and then this one, let's just give it as employee ID. Okay, so these are the three fields that we wanted. So let's just quickly clear the data and preview this. Okay. So employee name, email, and employee ID. So everything is required. Let's just, I don't want that. Okay. Um, all right. Now we also want to see a reset button. Okay. I'm not going to do like, the next screen, okay, save and all of that, because I just want to show you that how you can reset the data on the screen. Okay. So let's just go ahead and add a variable here, like, set value action, so that, like, whatever user enters, once they click on that reset button, then everything should, like, basically, like, go back to null. Okay. So set value. Okay, I'm just going to drop it here, and in the set value, we can rename this later. Let's just go ahead and add the elements. Okay, so in the elements, what and all do we have? Name, employee, and employee ID. And when someone, like, clicks on this set value action, I want to blank out everything. That means I want to make all of these fields as null. Okay, you can decide what and all you want to like, make it as null. And if there is something else, that, for example, let's say if there's a company name, right? So you would, like, anybody who is using your form, and if they are entering, like, 10 employee data, then they don't want to enter the company name again and again and again, right? Maybe they only want to blank out name, email ID, and employee ID, right? So you can choose, like, which field you want to blank it out. Okay, like which are the fields that you want to reset. So based on your judgment, you can do these steps, right? So here I'll just add, sorry, yeah, new value. So here let's just take employee name, and here in the function, I'm just going to keep it as null. Okay. And then employee name, then employee email. Okay. And the other one is employee ID. So employee ID and null. Okay. All right. Now let's just go ahead and preview. Okay. So let me clear the data, and let me fill out some detail. Okay. Test and something, then employee ID. And if I click on this, it should blank out everything. See, it blanked out, right? So depending on, like, what and all you have given in the set value elements, it is only going to touch those fields and reset them. Okay. So now, and here, like, you can rename this step. So for example, here, let's say, like, uh, reset data, and in the field label, I can just simply give it as reset. Okay. And if I go on preview, clear data, So here you can see, right, reset. So these are like, the kind of things that for which you can actually use set value actions. There are like, much more uses to it, but I think this gives you the basic idea to get started with it. And like, so based on like, any requirement or any use case that you're doing, if you want to like, include any extra stuff, and if you want to like, retain some data also, right? So for example, one of the cases that I remember is, let's say if you're like, if you're calling a data raptor server call, right? And let's say if you're updating some data, let's say if this page was showing me account details, right? And if I'm updating the account name, then the moment I update the account name, my JSON will also get automatically, right? So for example, here, let's say if I keep it as like, test, and let's say here like, anything, and here anything. Okay. So what happened to this? Why is it not? Okay, so here you see the JSON, right? So employee name is this, email is like, whatever I have entered, and this is the email ID, right? But if I change the name, right? So let's say I am just appending something to the name, okay? So if you saw, right, that the JSON like, changed very quickly. So let's say if the same thing is happening for account contacts or any other kind of records, right? But you will never get to know what was the previous value, right? It is not getting stored anywhere, right? So that kind of like, you can basically like, create a table, or like, create set value actions for those things, and you can keep the values, right? For example, whatever this value originally stores, you can set that inside that set value action, and then no matter like, what you keep on changing, it is still going to retain that value. Okay, so those are kind of like, scenarios where you can use set value actions. If time permits, I will like, create a practice set including the set value actions and other actions that are available, right? So that will include some of the scenarios that you can practice. But I think for now, uh, I hope that you could understand like, the basic use of set value actions. And so that's it for now, and I'll see you in the next session. Thank you for watching.